Welcome back to another episode of the Style and Strategy podcast. Today, it's a really special interview, and it's also really special because it is the last interview that I will be doing for 2024. Podcast will still go on for the next couple of weeks, and you will have me doing some short and sharp episodes for you as we head into that countdown of the silly season. But today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be sitting down with someone who's been really a true mentor in my journey, the beautiful Tracy Harris, founder of Mums with Hustle. So I actually had the amazing opportunity to work with Tracy, and she really opened up and showed me just how transformative her approach can be. And so during our conversation today, I had the chance to revisit some of the moments that made a big impact on my own business and personal growth. Tracy is one of those inspiring mentors that enabled me to think a little bit bigger, and she's always had this way of igniting clarity and confidence in just a few words. In this episode, Tracy is going to share her journey from executive teaching to leading a powerhouse online community, and reveals how her strategies for building her personal brand really stems from her authenticity and really to trust our intuition and genuinely connect with people, regardless whether you're face to face or online. So let's dive into this really special episode today, and I know it will leave you inspired to elevate your journey, whether that's as a woman in business or a woman working through your own professional career. Let's get into it.
I'm Sonya, a personal brand and style coach. My journey began in the corporate world and through lived experiences has led me where I am today. I've walked in those uncomfortable shoes, faced the same challenges and questioned my path to professional success while simultaneously navigating my personal style journey and the challenges that each decade brings. I wholeheartedly believe in the fusion of personal brand and style strategy. My mission here is to provide you with practical, actionable strategies and lived experiences to help you unlock your next level of success through the power of personal brand and style. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Style and Strategy podcast. And today I'm going to jump straight in talking to one of my mentors who made a significant impact, I would say, in my life, Tracy Harris from Mums with Hustle. I am so excited to have you on the podcast, Tracy.
Oh my gosh, it's such an honor, and it's like the most beautiful thing ever to be a guest on your podcast. Wow. You're in the driver's seat. You can ask me anything. Yeah?
I know. Well, I'm going to jump straight into it because, with me, there's no fluff. It's just straight to the
let's go.
So, Tracy, for my listeners, I really spend a lot of time working through, how do they reinvent their career? How do they change their brand? How do they do a whole lot of things? And really give them the courage and the confidence to do that. But if I look specifically at you, your career has been such a powerful example of what I would describe as reinvention. From leaving, being a executive leader in the teaching space, and then now becoming this sought after leader in the online digital entrepreneur space. What I would love to know is, from your perspective, what was the key turning point that really ignited for you to know it's time to change?
Well, I feel like a completely different woman to that previous version of myself, and that was basically 10 years ago now. Yeah. It is crazy. It feels like a whole other life, but at the same time, I remember it all in slow motion. So the turning point really was a big clash of values. Like, it was that moment of having your employer say to you, you must meet these particular demands or expectations. And in my case, it was you must return full time to your executive leadership role as a new mum or forfeit that leadership position. Literally told to me. And in that moment, it was like a gift, because at any time we really can choose, or we could be doing those reflective practices ourselves, but often we don't. And so to have someone say that to you, sitting across from you face to face, and they actually said, we're going to get up, we're going to leave the room, you've got 5 minutes. And when we come back in, you need to tell us what is going to happen here. But there is no flexible work arrangement for you. Now, at the time, I had a 13-month-old and I was wanting to work a 5-day fortnight. And that was seeming to be, not what they wanted. And that's okay. It's okay. This was about what I wanted.
Mm.
And this was about truly being the leader of my own life and no longer being at the mercy of other people, no longer living a life by default or a life like reactive or being at the mercy of other things. No more victim mentality, because up until that point, I definitely had some victim mentality. I was saying, how can they do this to me? And all of that sort of talk. No, you're not powerless. And so they left the room. They came back 5 minutes later and with a belly full of anxiety and with a quivering voice. Sonya, I could barely speak. I was doing like the deepest of ugly cries you've ever seen, because I had spent 10 years building my career. I had 3 degrees. I was shocked. I was so shocked. I was so hurt. It felt like a blindside, all of these things. But again, what do I want? It's my responsibility, and I get to say that.
Mm.
And so in that moment is when I really reinvented myself, and I went from being the woman that was told who she is, what she does, who she should be, what she should wear, how she should speak, when she should arrive, what opinions she gets to have, everything, to being the woman that said, I choose my family and my freedom. And that is it. I guess I don't work here anymore. And I had no idea what was going to come next. I just had to have faith that what was happening for me. I couldn't understand. I was terrified to go down onto one wage. Like, I was earning some good money. It was a big, significant contribution to our household. We had this new baby. We had a new mortgage. And I knew I wanted to have another child at some point. So the future was really uncertain, but I chose myself. And I just want more women to choose themselves before they get to some kind of rock bottom situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You've given me goosebumps hearing. I've obviously heard bits and pieces of that story before, but I think that key part around being able to choose and make that decision and realize that you actually have control over the situation is a really important point as well. Because if you don't take that control, you end up looking at everybody else and going, well, why is this happening to me?
Oh my gosh, can you imagine the alternative? So the alternative would be them coming back in the room and me saying, okay, I'm choosing my career over what? My own mental health, my own zone of joy, my own happiness, what the future version of myself wants to experience with her family. Because deep down, like, I already knew that the path I was on was a very sensible path, and it got the respect of so many people in my life. I was, Tracy with the 3 degrees and the masters and the youngest person ever to get this particular executive leadership role. And like people gave me a lot of recognition for that. And so my identity was really tied to that. And so then the question becomes is like, do you know yourself enough where people can take all those labels and identities away from you and you still know who you are and you still believe in yourself? Or have you literally become the identities that have been placed on you? So there's just so much to it. And so much healing was required to become the version that I am now. But I'm so grateful for the ultimatum, truly. Yeah.
No, so definitely a turning point. But if I now reflect on talking about, personal brand and talking about your style through the journey of once you'd made that decision and then you stepped into this world of entrepreneurship as one woman. And then I have, watched you for a really long time before I actually came into your world. And watching your evolution over the years has been not only inspiring, but just looking at it from a style and brand perspective has been seems to have marked each stage of your journey. So I'm curious to know whether did you believe that it was deliberate at the time? Like you felt like there was change and movement and all this happening and that you were evolving into a next level of yourself? Or was it more that it just kind of happened?
I feel like my life or my style and my brand, it's kind of like there are very distinct moments and chapters. And sometimes I think of them as albums. Like, when an artist comes out with a different album and they may have like a whole other look and vibe, that's how it feels for me, in a sense. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've changed again. Like, how many versions of myself are there? But we are all moving forward. We're supposed to grow, we're supposed to change. And so I feel like as I've developed myself in business and in life, being the leader of my life, like there are different levels to that. And then I feel like my style almost elevates or evolves, or I become more myself with every different version that there is. And that's not to say that you never were yourself. No, you were, but it evolves. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Because a lot of people that I speak to sometimes say, well, my style is an afterthought, or potentially that, I'm this style and I'll be like that, but for my whole lifetime. And
Okay.
so I'll challenge that because actually I completely agree in that your style will evolve based on your environment and, where you want to be and what your goals, objectives, life is. So for you then, did you feel like it was deliberate in those changes, in those points of time, do you think? Or did you think that it was something else?
I don't feel like it was deliberate, but there's a deliberate end or a dying of the past self, like a clear distinction. So I look back at some, say, older videos that live inside of my online programs. And just yesterday, in fact, I re-recorded all 7 onboarding videos for one of my online programs for my Social Method Society. And I re-recorded them because the ones that were up have been there for 6 years. And there's nothing wrong with them as such. Like they obviously did a great job of onboarding hundreds or thousands of people over the past 6 years into this online program. But my whole entire program has had like a whole brand revival many times over the past 6 or 7 years. And so there's new graphic imagery, there's new photography, like the whole style and personal brand has changed in that space, except for these videos. So one of my assistants on my team a couple of weeks ago, she had a look at those assets inside of the membership. She was like, oh my gosh, like this is so not the same person. This is like, if you ever feel like re-recording these, Tracy, you can. There's nothing wrong with the information. It's all clear. The vibe is warm. The videos are highly produced. It's lovely. She's like, but I just feel like if you see yourself, you will be like, oh, who's that lady? That's not me.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh no, cringe. Do I actually want to even look at these videos that she's talking about? Why is Simone telling me you may want to re-record these videos? So I went and I looked and I was like, I did have to muster up the courage though. I had to like take a deep breath and then I pressed play. And it wasn't as cringe as I thought. I was like, okay, good, good. Okay, the message is good. The teaching style was good. There was a warmth vibe. But in terms of my personal style, that had shifted. And that was in the past. And we needed to bring it up to the now. So I hired a studio yesterday and I re-recorded those 7 videos. And I've brought it up into the current era that I'm in. And who knows how long I'll be in this era, because I'm like a bouncing ball. I'm always moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm always changing. I'm always evolving. And so, yeah, there'll be a point where I have to re-record those again. Yes. But I don't know. I feel like it's a gradual progression.
Yeah.
But then you can look back. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. You can look back and you can go, ooh, that was an era. And oh, that was an era. And that was an era.
And so if you do look back, is there a particular memorable outfit or time that you can reflect back on and say, oh, it's this and it was connected to XYZ, like successful, maybe a successful time in your career or
Oh, yeah.
point of reinvention? Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I had all the teacher clothes. So, you know, like, and I always felt like, actually, I had 2 wardrobes at home. There was the Tracy, the teacher personality,
Yeah.
and she would never wear those things out on the weekend. No, like, no way. If my friends invited me out to a bar or, you know, we went on a double date or something, I would never be reaching for anything in that wardrobe. And then there was the real Tracy wardrobe. So there were always like these conflicting personalities. And I kind of felt like in my professional career, there was an expectation on how I had to dress. I know for a fact that there was, because when I was in my leadership role, I was told you're going to have a first year grad, a first year teacher on the same grade as you next year. And one of the things we want you to work on with her is her style.
Oh, wow.
I was
You wouldn't
shocked.
say that now.
I was like, me? And they're like, yeah, we're pairing her with you because we want, like, she could do with some guidance and mentorship around her personal style when it comes to her career and credibility with the parents. And then, like, you know, all of these things. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, okay. I didn't know I was some fashionista, but you know, I was like, I'll do my best, I guess. But I know that first year out teachers often don't have very much money. So we'll do the best that we can, because I know what it was like to try to dress my best to be taken seriously in the workplace when I really had no money. Like, I remember what that was like. And so, yeah, that was very interesting. I've gone off track there because now I'm remembering that. But for me, it was the teacher clothes and it was always Q. I was a girl that would like go to Q and that was my jam. That was my favorite. But would I choose to wear that for myself? No.
Yeah. And why?
It's too structured. It's too. Oh, see, I don't want to offend anybody. Here we go. That's a little limiting thought. But guess what, ladies and gents listening to this? I don't have the power to make you feel anything. So if I say anything and you feel some kind of way, get curious about it. Okay? Tracy Harris doesn't have the power to make you feel anything. That would be like a victim mentality if anyone thought that. So we don't want anyone writing in saying, she made me feel. No, no, you already had it in you. Okay. So in describing Q for myself, it was overly structured. The color palette was pretty boring. That's the word that wants to come out. Okay. This is the part where I'm like, oh, I hope people don't get offended. But yeah, boring, basic, not memorable, blends into the background. Like, I don't feel like it matched the impact that I truly know that I am here to have.
Yeah. And
It's
so,
just like expected, boring, good girl, toe the line.
if Tracy had to describe her style today and the woman that it represents, what would you say that would be?
Oh, she is free. She
Oh, yeah.
expresses herself. She wears how she feels on the inside. She doesn't look up the dress code for where she's going or what other people are going to wear, because she chooses how she wants to feel. And she has fun. She consults with her inner child who loved the 5-year-old me, loved picking my outfits. I'd get changed multiple times a day and get in loads of trouble for it because, it's not convenient for poor mum, having to fold everything or wash everything. But like, if I was going to the shops, I'd want one particular look because I'd be like feeling myself for the vibe of that place. And then if we were going to friends for a barbecue and a swim, I'd be like, oh, I've got to get changed because like I want to feel different in that space. And so, yeah, playing, experimenting, all of that. It's just way more fun and way more me.
Which describes really your personal style to a T. And so if I think about, the fact that you're a, very successful entrepreneur, and that often requires resilience, adaptability, a really clear vision as well around that. What would you say that you do in order to make sure that, you're maintaining your resilience, you've got adaptability in that space? Because some days are not easy. And I've obviously got a mix of listeners with this particular podcast, some being entrepreneurs and some being those in a career sort of workforce. So, people face those kind of challenges all the time and they're not sure how to actually navigate that. What do you do in those circumstances?
Well, my motto for myself is I am the leader of my life. And I feel like anybody can take that on, regardless of if you are working corporate or in a professional, more traditional career, or if you're self-employed or if you identify as being an entrepreneur. We all have that invitation to be the leader of our own life. And so with that being said, there are ways that leaders think and ways that leaders impact others. And so for me, it's like, okay, well then if I'm the leader of my own life, what does that mean for me? What do I choose to make that mean? Because we've got to create our own leadership philosophy. What does it mean to you? So for me, one of the things that I kind of dropped before is that no one has the power over me to make me feel anything. I choose how I feel. And not every single person on this earth is experiencing the same thing at any given time. And we know that because you can have two people that are essentially experiencing the same thing, yet they perceive it in two different ways. And that's where people get into arguments all the time. They're like, no, this is what happened. And like, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. But they were both there, but they both perceive the experience in two totally different ways. And that perception is created by the internal narrative that each of us has. Every single one of us has a script in our head, a philosophy, if you want to call it that. That's what I like to call it. You've got a philosophy about absolutely everything, every element of life, work, business, health, relationships, wealth, everything. And what you see in your lived experience every day, in every interaction, is based on the philosophy that you have in your head. Yeah. So there's this analogy of what you have in your head, your narrative, your philosophy, is basically like a script. It's like a script for a movie or a play. And then your eyes are the projector. And then what you see are the actors on the stage. So you can change your entire movie that you're watching if you go back and you change the script.
Mm.
And that's where it starts. And I feel like for me, when I say I'm the leader of my life, it starts with the script. It starts with my philosophy. How do I choose to wake up in the day, and how do I choose to be? How do I choose to view every interaction that I have? It's either in service of my highest good and everybody else's, or it's not. But how I think will affect the movie that ends up playing out in my life. So I take radical responsibility for the script that I've got going on. And we get to write our own script as well. So just write a good one. Otherwise, you're going to end up with that default story that's just tragic and bit victim mentality. You're going to end up with a Shakespearean tragedy.
Which I
You
don't
don't
think
want that.
No, not at all. So what kind of advice would you give someone if they're in the midst of their own reinvention, whether that's from a career, whether it's from a personal brand and style, whether it's from just life generally, right? What advice would you say to someone?
I'd say come and hang out with Tracy Harris. She'll help you
Change
find.
your perspective.
She will help you create a more empowering perspective, and she will initiate and unlock in you a whole new life and way of being. That's what I love to do. Like, that's ultimately what I do. But I would say, like, honestly, getting a journal or something and just imagining, like, allow yourself to think about, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want it to feel like? Bring as many senses to that dreaming and that journaling process as you can. Like, what fragrance is in the air? Like, all of that. Journal it down, because you do get to choose it. People spend more time thinking about what's wrong and their shortcomings, or what's frustrating them, or what they don't want. And they don't spend as much time thinking about what feels good and what they do have and what is working out and what do they want for the future. And so it's about spending more time thinking about the good stuff than the opposite. And if you can just do that every day, develop a practice. I've got a beautiful practice that I teach my mentees. It's called Fresh. And it goes through each of those letters. It's starting to live your life with intention around these core areas. One is fitness and nutrition. The other is relationships. The next one is your environment. And then we've got our self, and then we've got our hustle, which is our work and our contribution to the world, whether it's employment or entrepreneurship. And so how do you want to show up in all of those areas? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? Spend more time thinking about the good stuff. Make that a habit. Fresh helps you to make the focus on positive things become a habit versus the opposite. My to-do list. Oh, I didn't do that. That default thinking. We don't want to get caught there, because that expands. So if you want to radically change your experience of life and attract more opportunities and get that promotion or 10x your business, whatever it might be, it starts within each of us. It's our own leadership. Always coming back to that. That's why I love your podcast. I'm like, yes, Sonya's for the leaders.
So, Tracy, if one of the things that you are, I think, really stand for, and I see it really strongly, is building a life by design. And, I think that the Fresh framework really fits into that as a whole sort of ecosystem, for want of a better word. So for those that are looking to build that life by design, and maybe they start on the Fresh journey to some extent, what steps would you say to them to take in order to just make that first step? Because sometimes you can imagine getting that promotion, taking on X, Y, and Z, well, whatever that might be, but it feels that's not for me. I won't be able to do that. It's an impossibility. And I think you have shown many women of what is possible. So what would you say would be some of the first steps that they could take around that?
Get really clear on what it is that you are really good at. Like, that's what we call the zone of genius. And a lot of people get stuck on that. They're like, oh, what's my zone of genius? And I feel like the most simplistic way to think about it is to ask yourself, what is it that I know without having to have learned it?
Mm.
What do I just know? And I never had to learn it. That is your zone of genius. Everybody has that. Now, this could be interpersonal relationship skills. It could be your ability to activate and initiate people. It could be your ability to problem solve under high pressure situations. It could be your ability to turn big visions into step-by-step plans. It could be to make people laugh. I don't know, but you know. So like just spending some time to think about what is it that I've always known? Like go back to your earliest memory, and that's kind of like your zone of genius will be a through line. Sometimes maybe you were given awards or celebrated for these things as a child. Think about that. Sometimes you were criticized for these things as well. So like it could be this recurring thing that was really irritating at school to your teachers. And so it always found its way into your report, because all good things also have a bit of a shadow side. Like they also can be, unmanaged. It can just become like a big nightmare, right? Like you can just look at the world's greatest leaders. Leaders really could end up being tyrants and bullies, or they could really become phenomenal at changing the world in the most positive way, but they're both leaders. So it's the same with us. So it's like, okay, what's my zone of genius? That thing that I'm so great at without ever having to have learned or educated myself on. And then asking yourself, like, what's my zone of joy? Where do I get joy from? What do I love? Because the goal is to be able to move down a career path or create a business that you love. So it never feels like work. And you're not burning out. And you're not saying, I'm overwhelmed. And you're never saying, oh, I'm so anxious. No, those are all signs that you're going off your path and you're stepping onto someone else's. So it's that zone of genius, it's that zone of joy. And then it's asking yourself, what value do I bring to the world? How can I bring those two things together to create value in this world that people will pay me for it, either in entrepreneurship or in your career? What problems are you solving, or how can you blend those two things to bring value into the world? And then that's your contribution. That becomes your work. So, it's like three little circles.
Yeah.
If you picture that Venn diagram, and in the middle, it will be that life by design. That's the thing that you create. And that gets to look as unique to you as you want it to look. There's no comparing. If you want to have a job that you can do from anywhere and location freedom is important to you, then you're going to design your life in a way that gives you that always protects that. But if you're like, no, I've got no desire to do that. Like, I really want to be settled and grounded, and I want to have a farm, and we're going to have a veggie patch and hobby farm. Like, oh, beautiful. Like, you protect that vision. You just make sure that everything's always fulfilling that. But that would be the first step, that exercise of the genius and the joy. And then what value can I contribute when I put those two things together?
Amazing. Thank you, Tracy. I think I'll have a few listeners running off to start doing their Venn.
I would just be the happiest human if people did do that and they took a photo of it and they sent me a DM.
Yeah, yeah.
Because for me, like, I get my kicks from knowing that I've had an impact and knowing that I've initiated someone to actually get clear on what they want, to start living fully and not just existing. Like, that to me. Oh, so please, the handle is Mums with Hustle. DM me.
And it will be Tracy that will get back to you.
Yeah, it really will. I may take a couple of days, but it's going to be me.
Amazing. Okay, so Tracy, I always ask my guests 3 fast questions. So, and I always surprise them with these questions because I always want to have like on the spot answers.
Okay.
So, here we go. If you had to call out what your signature style piece is, so i.e., something that is your go to that you feel truly represents Tracy Harris's brand, and it's an essential part of your wardrobe, what would you say it is?
It's a crop top.
I would- Definitely.
Or it's some kind of dress with a cutout. Like there's always something going on. Or a really big split or something.
Yeah.
I just love those feminine touches. Mm.
Nice. Okay. And this one I know you'd be fine answering. So, for our listeners looking for inspiration, what book are you either currently reading or listening to, or something that you may have had that has had a significant impact on your personal brand or leadership journey?
Mm. Okay, so one that I'm currently reading very slowly because I'm digesting as I go is The Courage to Be Disliked. This book is going to help you become more you. Another one that I'm listening to again is Understanding Your Clients Through Human Design because I'm obsessed with my mentees and really tailoring my mentorship and my coaching to the individual and not expecting everybody to be the same and not giving everyone the same advice. No, I'm not about that. So that's another book. And then another one that I love that has really shaped me. Oh, probably The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I refer to that book a lot. That really goes into the zone of genius stuff. So if you're like, oh, I want to know more about zone of genius, that is the book for you. It's called The Big Leap. And I also just love The Happiest Man on Earth. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that one. I'll have to have a look at that
Oh,
one. Okay.
yeah, incredible. Not only did he survive the Holocaust, but it's just his outlook. It's like, yeah, it's him being a leader of his life. And
Mm,
yeah, incredible, incredible book. So
amazing. There's quite a few there. So,
I love reading. Like I could rattle off so many books for leaders. Oh my gosh.
and so finally, mindset ritual. So we all have those days where we need an extra boost. What is your quick mindset ritual that helps you feeling empowered and ready to tackle anything?
Okay. So when I've like spiraled down a slippery slope of negativity, I just like to come back to gratitude. So I just, on one hand, 5 fingers, just naming 5 things that I'm grateful for. But it's like something on my physical body that I'm grateful for, like within myself. Like I'm
Beautiful.
grateful for my strong legs that are supporting me and helping me get through my day. Okay, cool. Now something else, something that you can see. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for the blue sky. Like, look at that blue. That's amazing. Something that you can feel. Okay, this cool water that I'm washing my hands under. That feels amazing. How beautiful. So, like, just bringing yourself back to presence and mindfulness through gratitude, just trying to find 5 things to be grateful for, because that helps to create like a chain of positivity and shifts your focus again from lack and problems and fear into love, gratitude, happiness. It's like, okay. I also, Sonia, here's a random one. I also sometimes just think about the universe, honestly, like, and how we are just the tiniest speck. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, like there are trillions of galaxies. We live in one galaxy, and there are trillions of galaxies. So when I think about that, I'm like, oh, hang on a second. Not like this feels
Like
really
that.
big. The thing that I'm dealing with feels really big. And like I'm an emotional person, so I feel things deeply, mine and everybody else's. So there's that as well. And so that when I think about the enormity of the universe, that usually just pulls me right out of whatever my problems are at the time and makes me go, oh, wow, the world, the universe, it's amazing. Let's keep going.
I love that. That really does put a lot of things, I think, into perspective overall. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for being on the Style and Strategy podcast. Now, if my listeners want to hear more from you, sort of follow you along or anything like that, I'll have all the details in the show notes, but where's the best place to find you?
Oh, I welcome everybody, not just the entrepreneurs. If you identify as being a leader, if you are feeling like you're on this earth to make an impact with your work and your contribution, please come and follow at Mums with Hustle on Instagram. And you are so welcome to listen to my podcast as well. I feel like there's something in it for everybody. It's, with messaging and with marketing, we have to put labels on things. So, like, yes, clearly I am for entrepreneurs. But like I said, I've got so many people listening to this podcast every single week. There's over 450 episodes. And if you just want to live your life to the full and take radical responsibility for your outcomes in life, the podcast is for you. You're my person. So come and have a listen. And you never know how you may be activated in the process. So just be warned. You will change in my space, but only for the better.
I couldn't agree with that more. Thank you so much, Tracy. I really appreciate your time today. And it was so nice to catch up.
I know. I love this. You're so brilliant. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being part of this inspiring episode. If you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it a secret. Share it with a friend on social media, tag me at Your Style Collective, and leave a review. Your support means the world. Join me again next week for another empowering episode of Style and Strategy, the leadership series. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, you're already taking that first step towards your transformation journey. See you next time.